maybe it's both. Maybe it's both. Both what? Well, that's exactly what we're going to be looking at. Looking at that first reading in the gospel, we come together, we have the message that the church is offering us. Maybe it's both for this week. Let's do a little bit of review. Certainly, you can see I'm wearing rose. It is rose, by the way. All right, rose, which is a color of hope. Gaudete Sunday, rejoice. We're rejoicing because we're halfway through this season of hopeful anticipation that is characterized by penance. So, and we see that in a clear way because typically I'm wearing purple, all right, the color of penance. And then also the church very clearly, we're not singing the Gloria or saying the Gloria. We see that there is a penitential character of Advent. We have now come to we're over halfway there, and we're getting really close now to celebrating the Incarnation. Remember, our theme, for us this year in Advent, has been that theme of, do you hear what I hear? Okay, so do you hear what I hear? God speaking to you and me. He's continually speaking to us, and it is time. I don't know what it's time for you. I'm thinking that it's time for me and a number of different things. What time is it? What is God speaking to you in the gift of reason or the supernatural gift of faith? He's moving. He's constantly telling us, yes, it's time, and now we step forward, or it's time, and now we step back. What has He been saying to you in this Advent season? Oh, I haven't really been paying attention. Okay, well, at least we're honest with ourselves. What has He been saying? So again, we have this season of hopeful anticipation. Why? Because we're going to celebrate. All of us will celebrate. Maybe it's going to be the typical Christmas foods. That's going to be wonderful. Maybe the typical Christmas visits with people. That's wonderful as well. There's nothing wrong with these types of traditions, and in fact, they're congruent with what we're going to celebrate. But the point is that are we going to celebrate with a deeper understanding of what we are celebrating? And that is when God pursued you and me, He condescended Himself. That is to say, He lowered Himself to take on human flesh for this purpose, to effectively communicate to you and me who we are and how much He loves us. And so, are we going to be able to celebrate that in a way that's different than last year? That is with a deeper understanding? Well, that's going to depend on our penances, on our effort here in Advent. So, what is He saying? What time is it? Now, we'll review last week, but before we do, we have our 6th grade with us from the grade school. Anytime that we do, I like to step through our mission and our theme for the year. Might kind of call on them for a particular insight or two during the homily itself. So nice and loud, all right, so that everybody in the back can hear. But before we get there, what is our mission based on? All right, so it wasn't just something that Father Dennis thought up, okay? So what is the foundation of our mission? Can I raise your hand and tell me? Someone? Yes, Sam? The gospel is correct. All right. Nice and loud. All right, nice and loud. What is the gospel?
God revealing Himself to us.
Ooh, I think they actually heard that back there. Well done, Sam. All right. So God revealing Himself to us, what does that mean? Anyone? Sam? What does that mean? What does it mean, Jackson?
God showing us how to love.
Yeah, so say it in here because you're not...
God showing us how to love.
Yes, God showing us how to love is the gospel. The revelation, God revealing Himself, and through His life, He shows us what it means to live, what it means to love. Okay, so that is the foundation. Now we try and put it into our own words. We try and put as best we can His life into our own words, and that's our mission at St. Joseph the Worker Grade School. So we are. You can tell we're now into middle school. St. Joseph the Worker. All right. Nice and loud. A little bit more for everyone. You're not doing this for me. You're doing it for them. Okay. So we are at St. Joseph the Worker. We're working with Christ for His kingdom. The W stands for Okay, worship of God in the new covenant. The O stands for
Outstanding academics.
outstanding academics. The R stands for
Reverence towards God.
reverence for God. All right. The K stands for
Kindness towards all.
kindness towards all. The E stands for
Encouragement, example, and esteem for ourselves and others.
all right. And the R stands for
Rigor in learning, right, justice, liberty, and charity.
okay. So you got through it. We'll go ahead and again, as I said last week, our kindergartners know that. So our 6th grade, our 7th grade, and our 8th grade, they all know it too. 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, they're a little less enthusiastic. But that's part of being an adolescent. The adolescent brain is an interesting experience. But they're all here. You get full credit for that, and I'm very excited that you understand what you know. You know your mission. But they understand it in a different way that the kindergartners do. Because they get to ask questions. That's the difference between indoctrination and education. They ask questions. It's not just, well, that's the way it is, shut up and just do it. Okay, at every single level, they get to ask as many questions as they want. And they come to understand, to their capacity. And that's the case too for us. The gift of the Eucharist, whether it's that or, the revelation of Jesus Christ, doesn't matter. Well, there's no possible way that we can plumb the depth of our faith. If you have stopped questioning and seeking the answers, you have stopped growing in your faith and you have backslid. Okay? All of us have to continue to question, not question so that we can come to a different conclusion, that there are 3 persons in the Trinity. Well, no, I've come to that there are 4. No, that's not what was revealed. But now I can enter into the mystery. Okay? The mystery, by the way, is not something to be solved like CSI, solved in 59 minutes. Okay? A mystery is a relationship. You ever talk to somebody that's been married for 60 years? They could tell you I can tell you when he's going to get up. I can tell you what he's going to have for breakfast. I can tell you this. I can tell you that. And then, sure enough, he does something. And she's like, I've lived with him for 60 years. He's still a mystery. Okay? You cannot comprehend or fully understand the human person because the human person is a mystery. All right? And that's the relationship that we have with God. We continue to ask the questions, why? So that we can walk down this road, this journey with that person, God. All right, so I think that's good enough. So, well, let's at least review the theme. So this year, boys and girls, God is calling you to leap forward. Into, I dare I ask. All right, well, leap forward into what?
God's great adventure.
All right, God's great adventure. You're gaining a little bit of enthusiasm. And is God's great adventure all about making the most money? All right, is it all about being the most popular? Is it all about winning at all costs, even if I have to cheat? No. All right. Remember, St. Paul says, run so as to win. Okay, he does. He truly says it. So it's really good, too, for ourselves. Because you have to ask the question, is your life about making money or winning at all costs or whatever? That really reveals something about ourselves to ourselves. Gee, I don't know. If I could cheat and win the state championship, would I? I think I would. Okay. The thing is that that'll never be talked about in heaven. God willing, you get there. Okay. Well, we won the state championship. Okay. No. Everybody will just turn their back. They won't be talked about for all eternity. Why? Because it wasn't a moment of integrity. It wasn't a moment that's going to echo in eternity. It was just a moment that people talk about for a few decades, and then it's lost. Okay, so the great adventure is about sharing. And when we share what we have,
God changes the world.
yes, God will change the world. He does. He does, but through you and through me. Anytime we discern what He's placed in our heart to give, and we share it. So thank you very much, 6th grade, for being here, and an excellent way in reading and leading. So we definitely try to get them up in front of people. I also want to thank all the servers. So it's a wonderful experience to see so many people involved and ready to serve at God's altar. Last week, we put it this way. It was that 1989 song, that Soul to Soul, back to life, back to reality. We looked at the first reading and the analogy that there was a shoot that would sprout from the stump of Jesse. So, and essentially, it was a dead stump. It was talking about the Davidic covenant, David and his line, seemingly cut down, and yet there would be a king that would come from David's line. So, but here we looked at that in the different places in our own hearts where there once was life and now there's nothing. Those little areas. We all have those areas, and the encouragement was maybe it's related to sin. And we need to go to the sacrament of reconciliation and penance. So, not so much to kind of make ourselves feel bad or have this shame upon us, but really, for us to be lifted from that burden that we carry. In the sacrament of reconciliation and penance, it's the only place in this world where we won't get judged. There we receive His mercy. Now, the other encouragement was maybe there's a stump there within our hearts of unforgiveness. There's somebody there that we need to forgive. The encouragement was to participate in some sort of reflection, because forgiveness, first and foremost, is a decision. I decide to forgive this person. Although in our humanity, we continue to struggle with that. And so it needs to be a continual or reiterated decision. And sometimes just thinking and meditating on the person that has harmed us being before the Lord, weeping because now they realize how they've offended God, how they have hurt us, and how they have hurt the mystical body of Christ. And when we can visualize them repentant and weeping and asking for forgiveness, then we can find the cornerstone of forgiveness, which is our desire for them to be in union with God. That's the key. Have you forgiven somebody? We have, when we can sincerely desire that they would be in union with God. The third area that was suggested with regards to a shoot can sprout from this stump, this dead part of our hearts, could be that experience of meekness. And again, meekness is slow to anger. In these holy days and holidays, we're going to be coming into contact with a lot more people, different situations. It's going to be real easy to lose our patience. There we can ask the Lord, Lord, please, give me a meekness that I can have clarity of mind and strength of will in the midst of an emotional situation. All this emotional dust is everywhere, and yet you find yourself clear-minded and strong-willed, and you're able to choose something wise and charitable instead of reactionary. I'm sure that there's nobody here that has any type of experience where you just are reacting. So that was last week. Back to life, back to reality. It wants to bring life in those areas that are dead. Now, this week, maybe it's both. All right, when you think about that, there's a phrase there that I'm actually taking from a movie. Anybody have an idea of what movie that might be? Maybe it's both. No? Nobody's brave enough. I know that they're out there. Forrest Gump. All right, so Forrest Gump, there's a point where he's standing there in front of Jenny's grave, and he says, Jenny, I don't know if Mama was right, if we're all just floating around on a feather, or if Lieutenant Dan was right, if we all have a destiny. And then he says something very profound and quite Catholic. Okay, maybe it's both. Excellent theology, because that's exactly the way it is. Okay, we do have a destiny. The destiny is to be in union with God, not only in heaven, but now. To come to understand what it is to live is to love and to sacrifice and to grow our capacity to love and so truly live now, and that will be exactly how we live in heaven, related to that capacity to love in union with God and with all the saints. So, yes, we have a destiny. What? We're all floating around like a feather? Well, we have a choice. It's our choice. It's our choice to choose to grow our capacity to love or to shrink it. When God calls to step forward or to say, no thanks. To be the cynical person or the person who's self-possessed and encourages. Okay, so maybe it's both. Really, though, I just wanted you to remember that phrase, because that's what we're hearing in the first reading and in the gospel. So well done in that first reading. We're hearing from Isaiah, and it's in the 35th chapter of Isaiah. The commentaries explain that this is the end of the Babylonian exile, and the prophet has been given a word of hope. That's the key. The prophet has been given a word of hope and speaks it. Now, on the other side, we have the gospel and John the Baptist. Now here is the prophet, and Jesus even says there's no one born of a woman that's greater. This is the prophet. And in the end, it's the prophet that needs the word of hope. He's given everything, from a small child to, this moment where he's coming to the end of his life. He's in prison and he knows he's not going to last. And he starts to doubt. And there's the key. He receives the word of hope. The prophet receives the word of hope. This week, what's it going to be for you and me? Are you going to see the need and realize that God is giving you this moment of clarity so that you can offer the moment of hope and the word of hope? You're the prophet. You're the prophet this week. And you're going to step forward because God will speak to you and you give the word of hope that is needed. Or is it the moment where, you've been faithful, you've given so much, but for some reason in your heart, you're doubting. And you, the prophet, you need a word of hope. And you're waiting. Maybe it's both. Maybe there'll be a moment. But again, it comes right back to what we started with. Do you hear what I hear? And are we open to this? Because if we have to be open and we realize, yes, now I am being called the prophet, doesn't mean that I'm shouting before hundreds of people. It might be one person that needs that word. And God gives you the word to speak hope to them. Step up. Be the prophet and speak the word of hope. On the same lines, there are parts of our hearts that do doubt. And when I say doubt, I really mean question. And that's okay. And maybe we really need to hear the word. Are we going to open ourselves to it and admit, I need a word of hope? And are we going to recognize it when God brings it to us? You are the prophet. You are because you've been baptized. The Holy Spirit's within you. You and I are prophets. This week, maybe we'll be given a word of hope, and maybe a word of hope will come to us. Maybe it's both.